genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. This episode, we're imagining, what if Star Wars really focused on the war part? Like, what if Star Wars had trench combat, PTSD, and a lot of named characters die? So Tanner, is Battle Beyond the Stars a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
Sam, not only has this movie been remade, but it is a remake. In fact, it's a double remake. It's a double remake rip-off spectacular that's also been remade itself. And also, when they remade the thing that it remade, the people said that they shouldn't have remade that. They should have remade this instead.
What? Wait, so obviously this is a remake of Star Wars. I assume that's what you're referring to.
This is the late great Roger Corman's Battle Beyond the Stars is a remake of Seven Samurai. Well, it's a remake of The Magnificent Seven, which is a remake of Seven Samurai. But it's specifically also ripping off Star Wars because Roger Corman's never found a film that he couldn't rip off for a third of the cost.
Sure.
Usually lower, but he was putting more effort into this one.
Great.
And then also, Seven Samurai is a plot that goes through, like, a lot of films. You've got A Bug's Life. You've got the remake of Magnificent Seven. You've got the thing that, what's-his-name did? The Slow-Mo Man from DC. Zack Snyder. He did a Seven Samurai in space. And then a lot of critics were saying, you should have just remade Battle Beyond the Stars.
A strong argument. So what's the remake that they did make that they said should have just been a remake of this?
That would be Zack Snyder's film, the Red Moon something of the... Hang on, I've forgotten what it's called.
Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon, the first Rebel Moon.
Got it. Okay, I didn't watch it.
Me neither.
A shame, because I like Sofia Boutella, but...
Oh, Sofia Boutella's great. Oh, I could have put her in this. I didn't. I'd pick someone else as a favor to a friend.
Great. But before we get too deep into it, let's do the thing that I forgot to do last episode. Tanner, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Tanner, my pronouns are they, them, and I am a proud form.
Great. Love it. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and, like, the sorts of, like, things that you make so that if people don't necessarily make it to the end, you still get that plug-in.
I'm Sam's normie friend. I am not involved in Hollywood whatsoever. You will not find me on IMDb.
That's not relevant.
But it's funny, though.
Okay.
No, I am your average podcaster. I have made shows like What's it called? Not If I Reboot You First, a podcast where me and my friend Lindsay take the works that we think deserve a second chance and reboot them to give them that one, which went on a hiatus after our big 200th episode spectacular because we were burnt out, and then another hiatus because we had forgotten how to make a podcast, but now we're back.
Well, also, I need you to tell people about that 200th episode spectacular.
The 200th episode spectacular, we made William Shakespeare's Jurassic Park. Sam got to play Tim.
I sure did.
And then my other podcast project is Loser Like Me, an episodic recap and review of the TV series Glee, as well as its sundry spin-off, The Glee Project, as well as, occasional other things that are vaguely connected to Glee, whether it be through an actor or just vibes.
Which I also guested on for
the
episode that I did.
The episode that you were a background extra for.
Exactly, and you can find me, you can see me in the episode for, like, brief seconds here and there, but I am there.
We love Glee extras. My co-host Christina doesn't know this yet, so Christina, if you're listening, plug your ears for the next 1 minute. But one of the contenders from the first season of the Glee Project shows up in this current season as an extra, and that was not planned. She just showed up on set, and she was like, "Hi, choreographer," and he was like, "Oh my gosh, did you sneak in?"
That's funny. Great, cool. That's very funny.
And so then sorry, one more thing.
Please.
I also want to shout out my friend's podcast, Binary Break, that is being run by mine and Sam's mutual friend, Claire, and has my other friends on it, including Christina from Loser Like Me. And it is a Digimon-inspired actual play podcast using a system that Claire created. And it's really, really good. If you like Digimon or children from the 90s, then you're going to love it.
Claire is also a former guest of this podcast and has lots of amazing artistic endeavors that everyone should support.
Exactly.
So let's just keep this train rolling. How did you first hear about Battle Beyond the Stars?
How did I first? I think I'd never actually heard about it specifically. I think what happened was I'd heard about Roger Corman and how he was kind of like the B-movie guy. And so when I started going on Tubi, because my friend got me on the Tubi train. Thank you, Jake, for inspiring me to get on Tubi. I haven't been in the same since. And Tubi's got a lot of great stuff, but they also got a lot of slop. And I was like, well, I need to find the specific slop. Let's see what kind of Roger Corman stuff they have on here. And Battle Beyond the Stars is right there.
I mean, it's a good choice. It is definitely slop. It absolutely, now that I'm thinking about Seven Samurai or The Magnificent Seven, I haven't seen Seven Samurai, I have seen Magnificent Seven. Yeah, that is exactly what it is, but Star Wars.
Yeah.
It takes the Star Wars, a lot of it. It takes the Star Wars protagonist, makes him mean, angry, and sexist, and then gives him the Magnificent Seven finale.
Exactly.
That is the movie.
So when you think about it, it is actually closer to A Bug's Life, because in the sense of like the guys the people from the village in both Seven Samurai and Magnificent Seven, when they go out to find the Seven, they're not really characters. Like, that's their only purpose in the film, and then the actual protagonists are like the leaders of the Seven. Whereas in A Bug's Life, they made Flick one of the main characters. And so, that actually came out after. So yes, when you think about it, A Bug's Life is a remake of Battle Beyond the Stars.
Sure. Although in Magnificent Seven, like, they give some of those guys, it's like 3 or 4 dudes, and they give them somewhat arcs of, like, they come back, and I think one of them ends up dying too, and it's really sad, because they're like, we're just trying to get the good people. We know we're not protagonists. We're just trying to find some protagonists.
It really is. It's the quest for the protagonist. But Battle Beyond the Stars has a protagonist.
It does, and his name is Shad.
We got space names. We got so many space names, and I love them.
We have quite an abundance of space names. So, how does this movie begin?
This movie begins... I don't even think it has an opening crawl, which I'm surprised, because it's a Star Wars ripoff.
It's a Star Wars ripoff, but it doesn't have an opening crawl, but it does do the Star Wars thing of starting in space on a spaceship.
Yeah, we start on a big galactic battlecruiser, and there's a really intimidating guy there, and he orders his crew of mutants and Frankensteins to project his image onto the planet of Akir. And
even before that, while we're still in space, there's like some space station that's like, what's going on? Approaching
it's the weather satellite, and they're like, "Hello, welcome to the planet of Akir. We're nice and defenseless. Don't be mean." And they immediately get exploded.
Yep, they get turned into cosmic dust.
Yep,
and then he goes down to the planet and is like, "I'm gonna be a bad guy real quick."
He projects his face to hover over the one city on the planet. "Hello, I am Sador of the Malmori. I am here to take over your planet. You will send..." I don't even know what I think he just wanted, like, their, like...
resources.
Them to bend the knee.
The way I understood it was, like, they are a farming planet, so he basically wanted to loot them for resources.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys work for me now. I'm gonna... Hey, have you heard about the Irish potato famine? We're gonna do one of those, but planet size.
Exactly. And he definitely does not have a Death Star. He has a stellar converter. It's totally different.
Completely different. It only sort of has the ability to completely destroy planets.
Exactly.
That it uses once.
Original weapon, do not steal.
Yes. But yeah, so basically he's like, all right, you've got a week to kind of like... I don't know why he gives them a week. I don't know why he doesn't just like be like, okay, you're mine now.
Because then we wouldn't have a plot.
Yeah, but anyway. So he's like, all right, so in a week you're going to come back and you'll have shored up all the legal documents to say, hey, you guys belong to me now. I'll be back. I have to go do space villain stuff.
Yep.
See you then.
Got a whole list of other planets to beam himself down to and do the same thing over and over again.
Oh, he never leaves the ship. He and the protagonist never interact.
No, that's true, but he has like a hologram projector so that his head can float above everyone's city.
Yes, as one does. So basically, the people of Akir are like, we don't want that, but also we're terrible at fighting. So options
the Varda.
are...
Sam, it's the Varda.
The Varda? It's
not the Force, it's the Varda. It says don't fight.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's right. We have our special rule, our prime directive, that we also can't do anything.
Yeah. And well then, yeah, some of the counts are like, the Varda says we can't be violent and life is sacred. And then some of the others like, yes, but we're going to die. And the Varda does say that, like, we can fight in self-defense.
Yep. So basically they're like, well, what are we even going to do? We're stuck here on this planet. It's not like we even have a ship. Oh, I'll show you, says definitely not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Zed the Corsair. He from the Great Off-Screen War.
Yep, of course, from the Great Off-Screen War. Amazing. He's like, I totally have a ship, and I have this young boy who grew up on a farm and with his 2 moons. We're going to send him out to go recruit space protagonists.
I've been mentoring this twink, and he's going to go find people just as bad as Sador to fight him off.
Well, before even that, he's like, we're going to send them to our friend, the mechanic who, like,
Dr.
builds a bunch
Hephaestus.
of weapons. Hephaestus, and we're going to get him to get all the Hephaestus weapons. Has anyone talked to Hephaestus recently? No, but I'm sure he's fine. He's definitely not had a mental break or anything.
He's definitely got a good head on his shoulders.
Wow.
Wink.
Wow. Amazing. When we get to it, Hephaestus is literally a head attached to a robot body. He has populated his entire space station with robot androids who are the only company his daughter, Nenelia, have ever known. And so once Shad gets there, he wants Shad to stay there. And I'm pretty sure in his words, breed his daughter.
Yes.
So they can have a bunch of kids running around the space station.
He has this whole speech where he's like, this space station was made to hold so many people. We haven't had babies here for so long. And he, like, keeps on talking to one of his androids, like, we're gonna have grandkids here soon. It's gonna be great. And the android keeps turning to leave, and Fess is like, aren't you excited for kids? I can't wait to see my grandkids. Nenelia will be so excited. And the android's like, yes, sir. Of course, sir. Very well, sir.
And of course, the thing I thought they were setting up of this space station was supposed to hold so many people, and I was like, okay, cool. Evacuate the city to this space station, and you're fine. Nope, that's not what they do. Instead, Hephaestus captures Shad, locks him in a room, and says, all right, you're not leaving until you make me a bunch of grandkids with my daughter, who's surprisingly on board with that. And then, but instead, Shad's like, no, you're a girl and that's gross. And so he convinces her, is like, you know what would be way better? If you came back with me and died defending my planet. And she's like, you know what? That does sound great.
To be fair, his pitch is that, like, come experience life with me on Akir.
Yeah, the planet that's about to get exploded.
Well, he's being optimistic. Because, like, here's the thing, is, like, this is the first person he's trying to talk to, and he's still like, listen, if you come help us, the planet can survive and we'll defeat Sador. It's not till he gets, like, halfway through, where everyone's like, oh, a suicide mission? That sounds great!
And it's also not, and also when he expects her to leave, he expects her to bring a ton of weapons with her, and she does not.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. But it is his pitch, where it's like, listen, there's so many wonderful things out there in the world that you can't find on this space station. And she is also like, wind? I've heard of wind in my databanks, but I've never experienced it out in the world. And the android's like, no, it's terrible.
Which is very Xenon girl of the 21st century of her.
Very much so. All the androids are like, you can't go out there. It's terrible. Forms preying on other forms.
Yep. So basically, she decides that Shad is right, and she leaves the space. She gets in a ship and follows him. And he's like, hey, thanks for coming. Hey, would you mind going and waiting in this other galaxy for me? And she's like, no problem. Person who I abandoned my entire life for, I will happily go somewhere else and wait for you. And so she does.
Yeah.
So he continues on his way. She goes off to do other things. We'll get back to her. And he encounters a space trucker with a Confederate flag on the side of his space truck.
We're changing that.
Yes, obviously we're changing that.
We do not have room for space good old boys.
Yeah, turns out Space Good Old Boy is named, we shit you not, Space Cowboy.
That's his Christian name.
And he is hauling weapons. He's from Earth and loves Westerns. And he's hauling weapons to some planet. Shad ends up saving him from some space pirates or something, I don't remember. And they get to the planet.
We gotta though. So, because this whole time we forgot to mention that Shad has an AI co-pilot named Nell.
Oh, yes, named Nell.
And she's sassy.
She's very sassy. When they escape the planet, they're being chased by a couple of, like, leave-behind scouts by Sador. And Nell is very racist against them.
She is, and she's also kind of racist against the Akir. Because she's like, listen, shut up about your Varda. We gotta blow these guys up.
Yeah, she is. This AI is super cool with murder. And, like, there's no first law of robotics with Nell.
I mean, it's from what it sounds like, because Shad tries to tell her, like, you're a synthetic and you can't, and she's like, yeah, I'm not supposed to take life, but whatever, it's yours or ours.
Basically.
So
and
it sounds more like guidelines.
Yes, and it's a pretty bold stance for the AI of a spaceship that is a uterus with testicles.
It is the titty ship.
Oh, okay, so that we're titties, not testicles? That's fine. So it's a uterus with titties.
No, it's specifically designed to look like ovaries. This isn't an accident. This was intentional.
No, it is. They have made some choices in the year of our Lord 1980.
Also, I think that was James Cameron himself.
So they're off rescuing Space Cowboy from some space pirates, and then Space Cowboy's like, we can watch some westerns while we're here. Why don't we watch, what was it? The Battle of Custer's Last Stand.
Which is like...
references.
Yeah, thematically appropriate, but also not a great role model.
Nope.
For many reasons.
So they make it to the planet that Space Cowboy was delivering his haul of weapons to, and we get there just in time to see Sador blow up that planet. Yep. And Space Cowboy's like, yep, that's the guy you're fighting. Sure, I can come with. I've got this whole freight of weapons that they were going to use to fight Sador, and now they can't. So you can have them. And sure, I'll train your ground troops. That's fine. No big deal. No problem. No worries. It's cool. Everything's fine. We're chill. And then Shad's like, hey, cool, go wait for me in that galaxy over there. And Space Cowboy's like, dope. So then he goes, is it Nestor next? Or is it Gelt next?
I think next is Nestor.
Tell us about Nestor.
So Shad is flying, and then he spots a little flying saucer near him, and then he's beamed inside it into, like, their brain space. And what we see are 5 knockoff Spocks with really pasty white makeup that you can see the seams of. Yep. And they all move in unison. And they're like, what's up? We're Nestor. We're all 5 of us are Nestor. We're part of a hive mind. And we heard about your struggle against Sador of the Malmori, and we want to help because we...
How did we hear about it? Don't ask questions.
We're powerful cosmic beings, and we decided we wanted to help out because fighting a losing battle would be a new experience for us. And we run the risk of... I believe you guys would say, becoming bored to death.
Yes. And because all Nestors everywhere experience the same things, these 5 can go be in the battle, and it'll be an experience for whatever the other ones are elsewhere.
Exactly.
Implying that there will be Nestors in the sequel that never happens.
Mm-hmm. Episode 5.
Yes. And so, basically, like, hey, cool, we're gonna help. And Shad's like, cool, do you have a lot of weapons? And they're like, we're gonna help. And he's like, great, I'll take it. And so then he goes off to a planet where he's supposed to meet a bunch, where Nell knows that it's a bunch of, it's a hive of scum and villainy.
Yes.
And they're going to go recruit a bunch of, I can't think of the word, mercenaries. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, so he gets this planet, which is supposed to be like a casino planet. And it's, like, hard to get in. He has to, like, literally pry a manhole off and instead falls into a cave and wanders in what is definitely an abandoned casino planet.
Yep.
And he ends up running across the one person left. A man named after chocolate money. The man named Gelt.
Fun fact, played by Robert Vaughn, who was also known for starring in The Magnificent Seven.
He's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, honestly, of all the characters, he's the one where I'm like... You are giving this movie everything, and I have so much respect for it. You are giving this movie more than the main character is giving this movie. I have so much respect for you, sir.
Which is wild, because he explicitly said that he was only here for the paycheck.
And yet, he just had that charisma.
Exactly.
And also, he got to be scowly the whole movie, so go figure.
Yeah.
But basically, he is a assassin, someone who has killed people for money and is wanted in half the universe. And so what could Shad possibly offer him that he doesn't already have? He could buy a cure 10 times over. And Shad's like, I mean, we can offer you food and a place to sleep. And he's like, I'll take it. That actually sounds nice a little bit.
Yeah, because his whole deal is like, yeah, he has all of these riches, but he can't do anything with them because he would be shot on sight no matter where he went.
Yeah. Meanwhile, what's happening with Nenalia?
Nenalia has been abducted by Cayman of the Lambda Zone, the last of the Lazuli.
Well, first, Cayman rescues her from some sort of space jellyfish.
True, there was a negative space of Wedgie, and she gets rescued, and he's like, "Oh, you should be thanking us for saving you. Anyways, now I'm going to sell you off because female forms can reach a hefty price, to be eaten. Or other things. By the way, these are my two funny little guy friends. They're Kelvins. They speak by getting really hot."
They speak through temperature induction. And also, here is my kink slave?
Maybe?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. He never
That guy
says
truly
any lines.
doesn't matter. The Kelvin, the little Kelvin guys, they will actually be relevant.
Yeah,
His kink man doesn't factor in.
Didn't bother casting him. He's not
Same.
relevant to the movie at all.
Exactly.
I didn't bother casting the Heat people either, because I can only do so much. Tanner did, because Tanner's on top of stuff.
I did not cast the Kelvins, just because I'm casting them as whatever children you feel need a job this week.
Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. And so basically, Nanelia's like, "Oh, how dare you? I was gonna go fight Sador." And then Who's His Face is like, "Sador? Why didn't you say so? Instead of selling you, I should also go fight Sador."
Yeah, she says you're as bad as Sador, and he's like, "Don't you dare compare me to Sador. Sador killed my entire species."
Also, she doesn't know anything about Sador. She just heard about it secondhand through Shad, but whatever.
But hey, you want to talk about Kingslays?
Remind me who's next? Oh, yeah, that's right. On their way back, going to the meetup, Shad is being followed by what is described as the smallest ship he's ever seen. And inside that ship is Saint Xman?
I am Saint Xman of the Valkyrie. She's played by the incomparable Sybil Danning.
Yeah. Again, another good performance who's giving the movie way more than it deserves, but she's doing a great job.
Her deal is, she's of the Valkyrie. A species called the Valkyrie, you get the idea like, oh, warrior women beyond the stars, they live for battle and a glorious death. And she hits the ship with a blank, and she declares, "I have counted coup upon your ship. We had a glorious dogfight, and now I shall join you in your quest to defeat Sador of the Malmori." And Shad hates her immediately.
Shad's like, "How dare you make me look bad in front of my robot lady? I hate you, and I will speak down to you the entire rest of the movie, and for some reason you're going to be into that."
Also, he doesn't like that she refers to fighting as a game, which is weird because way back at the start, when he was talking to Zed the Corsair about his concerns about trying to recruit people to fight for them, Zed is like, "Listen, some people don't care about money. Some people will just fight for the fun of it." And then he literally finds someone who's willing to fight for the fun of it. And he's like, "No, I'm gonna be petty."
Yeah, the vibe I kept getting off of this dude was that guy from the Andor series who, designed his own uniform.
The vibe I got from him is the Mormon who's so psyched to go on his mission.
That is reasonable. Yeah, no, that's fair. And
have you heard the good word about the Varda?
And if my friend who left that life behind is listening to this episode, hi, Walker. He might be, I don't know. But yeah, so that's our cast of characters, and that is, we make it back to Akir, and that is, I shit you not, the halfway point in the movie.
Longer. It took 50 minutes to get through this, and we still have another 40 left.
Yeah, this is not a movie broken into a 3-act structure. That is a movie with a first half and a second half.
Yeah.
First half, get the team. Star Wars. Second half, trench warfare on the planet Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, okay, so
we're all gonna die.
We arrive back at Akir, and they have a dogfight with the guys who were left behind. Oh, by the way, at some point during this, some random henchmen were left behind to watch the planet by Sador, and they decide to abduct some people for fun. That, by the way, they abduct Shad's sister, which I'll forgive you for not knowing this, because they never commented on it after. But yeah, they abduct Shad's sister, and then shortly after that, the Seven show back up, and they have a whole dogfight and blow these guys up, including Shad's sister. And Shad feels nothing about this, because no one ever says, "By the way, your sister was on the ship that you blew up."
And also, she might be the one true hero of this movie in that she got abducted for nefarious reasons by criminals who were going to do terrible things to her. And while they're trying to make their escape, she runs into the cockpit and messes with the controls, leading them to not fight efficiently, and Gelt one-shots them out of the sky. And she goes down with the ship, but she also makes it so that they can't escape and warn Sador that there are people waiting to take him down.
Yeah, she has a full heroic sacrifice that is never even commented on.
Well, of course not. This movie doesn't respect women.
Yeah.
So basically they get to the planet, they set everything up, they start to do their battles, and then as Sador arrives to claim his planet, Cowboy's like, all right, cool, I'm out of here. And one of the other women on the planet was like, where are you going to go? He's totally scanning the planet. You're not going to make it out of here before Sador kills you. And Cowboy's like, oh, yeah. All right, well, I guess I'm stuck here. I guess we're going to do some fighting.
Yeah.
So they fight in space. They do a bunch of, like, space combat, zooming around, zipping. Basically, the plan is they need to shut down the weapon that they use to blow up the planet. They're going to send wave after wave of their own men to shut down that aspect of whatever.
Yeah, they're also so Sador, I guess, never starts with the Stellar Converter. He always leads a ground invasion force first, just because of his ego, I guess. So they have to deal with the ground forces and the space fighting. On the ground, Zed the Corsair gets killed, and then the Kelvins almost sacrifice themselves because they have, like, there's a sonic tank that keeps scaring people off, but the Kelvins have no ears, so they just run up and shoot heat waves at it, and it explodes, and then they pass out. But I think they're fine. I don't know.
Nenelia runs up and goes, "They're cold," and it presumably, like, they spent their entire life force taking out this tank. But then someone yells, "Get them to the healing pods," which we never see. We only see people lying on the ground and on stretchers wrapped in bandages.
Those are the healing pods.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. They're like bunk beds, but healing.
Yeah.
It's how you heal in anime.
Exactly.
Unless it's a space anime, then you are, in fact, in a back-to-tank or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it's fighting, there's space fighting, and the first real casualty of a named character is Gelt. And he's like, I spent my life running from people who killed me just to start running towards gunfire or something. And it's a line that goes really hard, and I'm sad I don't remember it.
Yeah. It's, again, like, Robert Vaughn gives a really good performance, and he takes out some fighters and he crash lands back on the planet and dies, like, with Shad by his side. And Shad declares, I want a full course meal prepared for him. And they're all like, what? Because a full meal and a place to hide. That was our promise.
It's genuinely... Gelt, I'm sorry, is the best character in this movie.
He from a dramatic standpoint, he is the best character. From a pure camp standpoint, here comes Saint X-Men walking in full bondage gear that had to be glued to her chest because her titties kept slipping out. Sybil Danning, my beloved.
That tracks.
She walks up to Shad, and she's like, did you see the fighters that I took out? One was on my tail, and then I swerved and it slammed straight into an asteroid. It was amazing. And Shad's like, listen, you might think this is a game, but these people are giving their lives. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry about your Varda, I forgot about it. But the Valkyrie believed that a glorious death is important to us. It's
true. And then she has a moment with Nenelia, and you're like, oh, these two make a cute couple.
She full on says, I'm going to teach Shad how to fuck. Wait,
she 100% says that.
Do we swear on this podcast? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's fine. I've already sworn several times in ridiculing this movie.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to teach Shad how to fuck. And Anita's like, oh, you could teach me too. And then they run off giggling like schoolgirls. So presumably somebody got eaten out. And then after that, Shad is doing some repairs on Nell. And then Nenelia comes up to ask him about stuff. And she's like, so the Akiran forms, how many, like, genders do they have? And he's like, 2. And she's like, what? Just 2? That's so boring.
I noticed that too. I'm like, and then the movie, like, and then Shad's like, no, there are only 2. And just like, you had an opportunity to do something real cool, movie, and then the movie did not do that.
It did not do that, unfortunately. But then we get a hurricane of puns of Nenelia trying to give him, like, engineering advice that all sound like euphemisms for, hey, you got a boner?
It's true. And then they're like, let's try the kissing thing. And then Nenelia is like, not into it for now, because I guess we have to wait another half hour of movie time in order for her to decide that she wants to do the kissing thing again.
Because after St. X-Men, everything else pales.
Exactly, because, like, who could even compete?
Exactly.
I mean, literally, Nenelia is the beautiful blonde woman who falls in love with the first boy she's ever met.
Mm-hmm.
That's her arc. That's what she does. But yeah, battle, fight. One of the Nestors intentionally sacrifices themselves to go go get intel about the inside, allows itself to die. Its arm gets cut off and put on Sador's body, and they try to use the arm to control.
One of the things about Sador and his crew is that they're always replacing their body parts with the people that they've defeated.
Uh-huh.
So that way, like, the constant organ replacement and stuff, so they can basically get immortality. And of course, Sador's body looks a lot better put together than a lot of his other henchmen, because they're, like, all stitched up and messed up. And so, yeah, one of the Nestors volunteers to get captured. He's stuck in the torture chamber. And Sador has this whole, like, monologue listing the resume of his favorite torture technician. He's like, he's an expert at making people feel excruciating agony without them dying. And Nestor just goes, it's good to have skills.
And it's like, and you probably won't hold up to torture. He's like, no, I won't. I hate torture.
And then he dies immediately. It's like he gets poked by a buzzsaw. Dead.
Yep. It's like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to stick around for this. And just nopes out of there.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Sador gets the new arm attached. And then there is a funny part, because the Nestors, they only have a thumb and 2 thick fingers. So Sador's holding it up, and it's like, we gotta do something about this. But then, because the arm is still part of Nestor, they try to, like, slash Sador's throat with the arm, like, from their sidekick position on the planet. But he's able to get the arm removed before anything happens. And they're like, darn, our assassination attempt failed. And then the rest of the film is just space dogfight.
Yep, space dogfight, as everyone systematically gets picked off.
Really anticlimactically. It's like, we get a shot of someone exploding, and then we cut back to Shad and Nanelia inside Nell, and Shad's like, oh, reference to a line they said earlier, and now they're dead.
Like, earlier in the movie, Space Cowboy said that, I'm not going to be your cavalry, and Shad's like, what's cavalry? And he's like, ha 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 ha, let's go watch a Western.
Yeah.
And then Space Cowboy shows up and is like, I'll save you, kid! Pew pew, pew pew! Oh no, I've been hit! I'm going to go fall onto the planet and die. Which is in fact what happens. Saint X-Men kamikazes herself in a big glorious way. Nestor gets hit. They all get systematically taken out.
Kamen is the one who actually gets an audience with Sador. He has more, history with Sador because he, killed off the rest of his species. And Sador's like, I thought I had the honor of destroying all the Lazuli. And Kamen replies, no, there's still one. And then he also dive bombs the ship while going, Lazuli!
Confirmed. That is a thing that he does. And it's weird. And so then he gets blown up too. And basically then all that's left is Shad and Nanelia's in the ship for some reason. And they have to fly around and do whatever they can because they can't let Sador leave. He'll just come back with more ships and they won't be able to escape that time because they can't do this a second time. And so the Sador ship fires a bunch of nukes at them. They escape most of them, but then the back of the ship gets hit and it for some reason wipes the memory of the AI. So basically what they tell the AI to do is to fly in close to Sador's ship and self-destruct to take out Sador. And they make it out on the escape pod that they did not know was there. And they're like, there's an escape pod? So Shad and Nanelia get onto the escape pod, fly out, and then the voice of Nell goes, all right, Sador, this one's from me, you son of a bitch. Flies in close, explodes, takes out the bad guys, and Sador goes, but I wanted to live forever. And then Nanelia and Shad make out. End of movie.
Yep. Yub nub.
Battle beyond the stars. And and then Shad says, it's not sad. We don't believe that anyone's really dead until the people whose lives they impacted are gone. So all the people we'd lost today that we've known for a couple of hours, we'll still remember in here points to heart. And in here points to boob. Make out. And that's Battle Beyond the Stars. It is, by all accounts, a movie.
It's a very silly movie, but it has a certain charm to it.
It absolutely does. I'm making fun of it, but this is an incredibly amazing bad movie night. If you're the sort of people who, how did this get made, want to watch bad movies, this is such a good choice for you. My goodness, this is a silly movie. Go have fun and watch it and make fun of it with all of your friends.
And the actual production that went into it is actually pretty quality. Like, all of the ships have really good, unique designs, and they also have, like, their own sound design that goes with them. So, like, they all make their own little as they go through space.
Yeah, they make all of their knockoff Star Wars noises.
Yeah. The soundtrack is really good, the score, and some of the makeup effects are good. Like, Nestor, not great, but, like, Sador's henchman, and I'll argue Cayman is not the best, but I've definitely seen worse from this era.
That is true. And, like, all told, the movie looked good. Like, all I know is that it was a budget of $2 million, which is a lot of money, especially for 1979 when they filmed it, 1980 for when the movie was released.
And,
like,
it's also a lot of money for Roger Corman.
Absolutely, but they made that movie, like, they stretched that budget. Mm-hmm. And so they did a good job. That said, what are we going to do?
So, we're actually going to make it a little more Star Wars, but we're also going to make it a little more Magnificent Seven.
I feel like that's what we have to do. I don't know that we necessarily need, like, a lone boy from a farm going off to, like, recruit people, but I also feel like he should get a couple no's. But yes, I'm sorry, continue.
So when I say you gotta make it more Star Wars, specifically I'm thinking, and also to, like, expedite the process of recruiting the Seven, we're gonna put up the bulk of them in just a full-on cantina.
Okay, that's an option. Sure, continue.
So my thinking is, like, we are gonna encounter Hephaestus and Anelia individually, but then Anelia is going to join Shad. They're going to go to whatever planet, and that's where they're going to find Space Cowboy, the Nestors, Cayman, and St. X-Men. And then I'm not sure if I want them to find Gelt there, just because if he's there, that would kind of go against the whole thing of, like, he can't show his face anywhere in public. So I was thinking that, like, at some point they get ambushed and Shad has to make a crash landing, and he crash lands on Gelt's planet, and that's where he meets them, and he's, like, the official 7th member.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to tweak that a little bit.
Go for it.
Instead of having them all meet in a cantina, because these are representatives of so many different kinds of people, and I know that the Seven Samurai thing, the Magnificent Seven, is like, hey, why don't we all go defend this town? Because even in Magnificent Seven, it's like, hey, we're all criminals, we've been doing all of this cowboy stuff for a long time, but we don't really have a place to call home. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a place to call home? And this town's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And that's the logic of that movie, but I don't know that works now, certainly from our perspective of, like, so you're inviting me to come die for you? Why would I do that?
Right.
I think what would be more interesting is if we are literally entering a solar system. And Sador is targeting this planet in particular because it's the farm planet and he's taking it over. But what Shad is doing is he's just going of the planets in their system, going like, Sador's coming after us. Why would you not think that your planet is next? After he conquers us, what's to stop him from coming after your planet, your planet, your planet? And we are in a confined space of it being a solar system. So that way we get the like, instead of just like meeting them all in a bar, like all hanging out doing their like, I'm the one playing darts, I'm the one who has too many beers. Of like, we get a sense of what they have to lose because we get a sense of who they are as beings and as people. Like, we can have a planet of Nestors, or we can have a planet, like, we can have your Cayman and your Nestors being on the same planet, and that Cayman is like defending his planet. He doesn't need to be the last of whatever's, but whatever. And like, the Nestors are there because they're or if he is, Cayman is there as a representative of the last of, like, his people. He's like, what do I have to fight for? He's like, well, this dude took out your people. And the Nestors are there studying the last of their kind so they can, like, make records in their logs. Because, like, why don't they brainiac a little bit?
Yeah, I do like that. And that does kind of go into some of the other stuff I was thinking. With the setup, because, I mean, Sador comes out of nowhere, basically, for this film. And I want to give just a little bit of backstory for him. Like, and so we're going to take 5 minutes to just go into more depth on the Great Off-Screen War, just to say that Sador was also a Corsair, and the Malmori were, like, his squadron, and they decided that, like, the Galactic Alliance or whatever didn't reimburse them enough for what they did, so they basically became space terrorists and space bandits.
So
and
when you say Corsair and Malamori, which group is that referring to? Gelt?
No, I'm like Sador.
Sador.
So we're gonna say like, oh, if we want to use Star Wars terms, because clearly they're implying that the Corsairs were the Jedi.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna say like, Sador was a Corsair, and then he was leading this like squadron, and then when they felt rebuked by the Galactic Alliance or whatever, they became the Malmori, and the Malmori is kind of just like the term for their cult of personality that Sador is leading.
Isn't that the Adam Driver group?
I don't know anymore about the sequel trilogy. It's just it's flows off my brain.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I'm not even remembering what Adam Driver's character's name was.
Kyle Ron.
Kyle Rayner? No?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. This I feel like I need to look up because enough people are like shouting at their screen or whatever.
Oh yeah, because the closest feeling you'll have to being a ghost is when someone says something wrong on a podcast.
Yep, I have made that exact reference. Kylo Ren.
Oh, and then the Knights of Ren.
And the Knights of Ren. So basically what you were describing is a Knights of Ren type situation.
Yes. That wasn't my exact... I'm not going one for one Star Wars, but I'm thinking, like, in this world building that I'm doing in my head, that's the close equivalent, where, like, a Corsair is a rank they recruited from all across the galaxy to fight whatever nefarious force, and then afterwards, Sador basically decided to go rogue and become space bandits.
I mean, I think if we're going to do that, we have to present it as a possible alternate to like what makes stuff like this interesting is that like what makes Darth Vader compelling in the later movies is that like for Luke Skywalker this is who he could become. Mm-hmm. And it never at any point felt like any sort of ominous future for Shad. It's just this overwhelming force that's threatening. It's just the bad guys. So I think if we're going to be building Sador up as, like, and giving him backstory, then I feel like it needs to be Sador has gone and conquered the galaxy, but he's originally from Akir.
Oh, okay.
And he came back to Akir because he's like, I've conquered the galaxy. Welcome me back as a hero. I have done what this planet always wanted. I have brought peace under my reign. And they're like, no... You're violating whatever our version of the Prime Directive is. You attacked people without, like, in an unagitated way. Like, you are not acting defensively. You're acting offensively. We will never accept you back. And he's like, excuse me? Well, if you won't accept me back as your leader willingly, then you will accept me back as your conqueror, as I have for worlds before.
Yeah. I do think that having him have conquered the entire galaxy is a bit too big, because then it's like, it leaves you thinking, how are they going to fight everything that he's done? Because sure. I'm not trying to set us up for sequels necessarily with this. I wanted the threat to be destroyed. But I think a good compromise would be like, he has conquered this sector, and now he's returning home the conquering hero. And then part of maybe the reason that Shad needs to go find the other people, like these rogues, to help defend them is also they try and contact whatever galactic council is at the center, and they're like, yeah, but you're like an outer rim planet, outer sector, we're not really worried about you, so good luck.
Let's set it up this way. If we have Sador like coming back because Akir is his home, why would he bring his entire army? He's like, hey, my army has conquered the galaxy. I'm coming back to my home because I'm expecting to be cheered and celebrated. I'm not bringing my army with me because I have no reason to.
That's true.
They're going to celebrate me. And we can take it another step further of Shad isn't home right now. So we have Sador coming in and taking over Akir because he's already there. And the week that we have is the week that it's going to take Shad to get from whatever home he's in, from whatever extra mission, delivering crops, selling them, whatever space farmer's market he was at, to then turn around and come back. And he's like, if I'm going back, my home is under attack. I'm getting as many people to come with me as possible. So it's me and my ship. We're going to get as many people as possible, and we are going to guerrilla warfare Magnificent Seven, this army that has basically occupied our home planet.
I like that. I think that's good. We can even say, just because the only other planet they mention in the movie, the one that gets stellar converted, is Umatil. So we can even have, like, Shad and Space Cowboy starting on Umatil, and then they hear about Sador incoming, and they're like, what do we do? Let's do a Magnificent Seven. Because then that also, even more so, expedites the process of gathering the warriors.
Yes, and we can also have it be a representative of, instead of having Umatil blow up, which is very Star Wars, they love blowing up planets. Like, you can have Umatil just be full on taken over by the fascists of like, this is what that planet looks like when it's been completely taken over. I'm not going to let that happen to Akir.
Yeah.
And so we can have him encountering everybody. So Cayman, I think, makes sense. He's like there. His plant. He's the last of his race. Of course, he wants revenge. The Nestors makes sense.
I think like what you said about having the Nestor studying Cayman, I think we even specifically have Cayman be like a prisoner there, and basically being kept on the Nestor homeworld as basically a science experiment in a tube. Actually, no. Hang on.
I mean, that's the Collectors.
That
Collector.
is. Actually, you know what? Let's shift that. I'm gonna put Cayman somewhere else with the Nestors, because I think with the Nestors, their thing should be, instead of them being, oh, we're gonna help because we're bored, and especially now with this new framing device, it should be that the bulk of the Nestors think that either there's no point fighting Sador, or that they will not be as affected because they consider themselves a higher level of form due to their hive mind stuff. And so the 5 that join Shad and Cowboy are going to be like the 5 dissenters, who are like, we will join you on this mission because we believe that it is important to fight back. And then we are hoping that our experiences will help convince the rest of Nestor to also help oppose Sador.
Great. I love it.
And then like, for Cayman... Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
For Cayman, we're going to put him on the Valkyrie homeworld. Because I'm so glad you've decided that we're going to visit everyone's homeworld, because now we get a planet full of Sybil Dannings.
That is correct. That is exactly what we have.
The entire planet is serving pussy, and they're gonna go to the gladiatorial pits.
It is what species was Worf on Star Trek?
The Klingons.
Yeah. So it's the Klingon Amazons.
Exactly. Yeah, we go to the Valkyrie gladiatorial pits, and that's where we're gonna meet Sador, who, as the last of the Lazuli, is basically like the cool lion that everyone gets to fight. And he's also kind of their prisoner. I think he should be
into it. Like, I think he should be...
He is absolutely into it, but he's also technically their prisoner.
Sort of, but he's like... I don't think he needs to be their prisoner. Like, I think he could be very much of like, I had nowhere else to go, so I'm gonna go where I can just do the most ridiculous things possible, and I'm on an entire planet full of, like, Amazon warriors. Even a lizard man like me is gonna have an amazing time here. They live fast and die hard. And why not?
Exactly.
I can get behind that kind of energy. And then literally we can have some sort of skirmish with some of Sador's men. And Shad needs to lose.
He does, but he also needs to kill. Because he has a whole thing about, I don't want to kill anyone, the Varda! And then when he finally does, it's kind of an anticlimax. So that needs to be an actual dramatic moment.
Absolutely. He needs to kill, and he needs to not kill until he's shot and he's falling down, and he needs to kill the people who shot him down to prevent them from, like, alerting Sador that he's bringing anyone with him. And because I want him to then crash land on an abandoned planet, and while he's foraging for supplies to fix the ship, that's when he encounters Gelt.
Yes.
Sitting in his throne room surrounded by treasures that he can never spend.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that leaves us with Cowboy and Nenalia.
Yeah, so I think it makes sense for, like, Cowboy to be someone who already knows Shad, and, like, they're, like, maybe not know, but they're acquaintances, and he decides to join Shad in this quest, kind of, sort of, like, from the start. Even if it's just in the sense of, I'll help transport weapons, I'm not much of a fighter, though.
Yeah. Like, and the Cowboy that I cast is also a lot older, so it's very much of, like, look, kid, I've seen it all. I know that we don't really have a chance, but, like, I'll drop off some weapons for you. Tell you what, you go recruit whatever warriors you're like. I'll go pick up some weapons for you. And then I'm going to leave because I've abandoned tons of planets. I'm willing to abandon another one.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then do you want Cowboy to find Nenalia, or do you think we should still have Shad get on Hephaestus Station?
I think that, why not, ¿por qué no los dos? Like, right. We can have both of them go to Hephaestus Station, encounter Hephaestus, encounter Nenalia, and they go there specifically to get weapons, and all they leave with is some blonde chick, although not in my version.
Correct, same here.
They leave with a technical expert. but no weapons.
Yeah.
And so that leaves us with, now we thought we were going to get weapons. We didn't. So now one of us needs to go get people. One of us needs to go get weapons.
And I have an additional twist on Hephaestus Station, which is, for one thing, I want to make it more clear that obviously the trope space the movie is playing with is like Nenelia is the princess in the tower. She wants to see the world, but they don't lay into that hard enough, and so we just need to do that. And specifically, I think it should be because in the film, Shad tells Nenelia this whole story about there's a form in the Black Galaxy where their children don't have immune systems until the age of 5 cycles, and it's a beautiful family moment when they come of age and they take their first breaths through unfiltered air. And it's like this whole, obviously it's a metaphor for Nenelia, come off the space station and come live on an organic planet. But like in my version, it should be Nenelia specifically being like, I've run my databanks about this species and like I can't help but relate to them because I've been here my whole life and my father won't let me leave. And Chad's like, come with us. And she's like, I'm not a fighter. He's like, most of the Akira aren't fighters either. I just think you deserve a chance to have a life.
Yeah, great.
And then with Hephaestus, I'm giving a bit of a bigger role in the sense that like when he is talking like, when Shad is trying to argue that he shouldn't be keeping Nenelia all locked up in here, and also he's not going to follow her to the copulation chamber, Hephaestus is going to be like, listen, I've already made a deal with Sator of the Balmori. They're coming. They're getting my weapons to help because I've analyzed the data and I've determined that their way of sustaining life is better than your way. So you might as well shack up with her or you're going to get killed.
Or I've crunched the numbers. There's no way you can win, so I've sided with the winners.
Exactly.
Like, I might just be a head attached to a bunch of, like, robot parts, but I don't necessarily want to die. So why don't you go and why don't you stay here and make with the babies?
Exactly.
Sure. Great. Done. Awesome. Okay, cool. So that's our team, and then we go back and we Magnificent Seven, and it's a big war fair. Like, it's battle, it's everything.
Yeah.
Do you want to kill everyone again?
So, the way I've got it laid out, for one thing, they're getting back in time so that they have time to, like, we see more of the training. Like, we're gathering the Seven way faster because a good chunk of the Magnificent Seven film is also the heroes bonding with the populace. And so we need to have time for them to, like, grow to enjoy being on a Kier, or at least, like, grow to, like, accept what's going to happen. And, you know, there's some romances and stuff, and they become friends. Like, I've got my bullet points here is that Cowboy will still have a little bit of a romance with Lux, who's another Akira woman. We're going to develop Nenelia and Shad's romance. So that doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like the obligatory romance.
I still don't love that she falls in love with the first guy she ever meets.
But it's like... It's not like, oh, they're going to be making out by the end of the film. It's like we're laying the groundwork so that they like each other, so that in the climax, if they have a held gaze, the audience will go, oh.
You got it, sure. Okay.
I want there to be, like, scenes of Gelt and Cayman bonding with each other because they're very much understanding, like, this is probably a futile battle, but we really don't have anything else to live for. We are here to die.
Yeah. And I like the idea of Saint Examen of the Valkyrie, like getting people hyped, like the ultimate of like, no, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be so fucking dope. Like, you don't understand. We do this and this and this.
Yeah, and like specifically, I want I do want Saint X-Men to like learn the value of living a full life and a long life. Like,
yes,
if she's from the Valkyrie, she's gonna land on a Kier and be like, why are these people so gray and wrinkly? And she'll be like, oh, they've lived long, full lives. And she's like, interesting. Not for me, but it seems like fun for you guys.
The one thing that I realize that we need to cover is that if we're going to the Valkyrie planet, we have to figure out why it's just Saint X-Men. And I think the answer is, it doesn't have to be. It's our movie. We have Saint X-Men, who's the leader of all of the Valkyrie warriors that we bring back, but it's going to be a big battle. We can have a ton of Valkyrie warriors.
We are going to have a cavalry moment later in my notes.
Okay, great.
Well, for Saint X-Men, if we want to justify that she's the only one, it could be that, like, this is her coming-of-age thing, but she's technically not of age of the Valkyrie. She is... Here's the thing. She's not born sexy yesterday, but she is kind of a sexy baby, which is different.
A little bit. Yeah, like, she's definitely not, like, a child, but she has, like, an immature worldview because all she knows is big fight, go sex now.
Yeah, but that's also, like... just kind of how the Valkyrie work.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be a thing the Valkyrie would state like, "We shall fight Sador when he approaches us, but we see no reason to waste time on a single futile battle. We shall batten down our hatches here." And then Saint X-Men can be like, "But mother, I want to fight in the battle." She'll be saying this, but she'll be like 30.
No, Diana, you can't steal your rope and your tiara. Don't go into the world of man. We won't be able to welcome you back.
I am. Well, then also, and that helps because, like, her equivalent in the Magnificent Seven is Paco, like the tag-along kid, who they didn't technically recruit at the beginning. He just kind of follows them because he wants to be the special boy. And so this helps her line up more without it being like this weird thing of like, we don't want you because you fight for fun. Now it's like, oh, I didn't know you were coming because you stole a spaceship and the sacred Valkyrie bondage gear.
Yeah, I mean, it also could be very much of like, there is no honor in fighting this war over, what was it, grain? There's no big, like, the only honor you need to receive is to fight here in the Colosseum. And St. X-Men's like, I'm pretty sure I can find some honor on this planet too. I'll show you.
Exactly.
I'll show you when you're when you're laughing when I regale you stories in Space Valhalla.
Yeah. And then going back to what you were saying earlier is that St. X-Men will learn the value of a life well lived, but also she'll teach Shad and the Varda that there's no dishonor in a glorious death, especially when you're defending your home and your way of life.
Yeah, like, I think she'll show them, like, hey, maybe don't be a coward.
Yeah.
Actually, defend your home. You don't need to stand here and just take fascism as it rolls in. You can fight against fascism.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then the fight happens.
We're gonna have we are like the original. We're gonna have two fights. We're gonna have a ground fight and then a dog fight. And the ground fight is where we will see Gelt die, because then it's just more personal and intimate.
Absolutely.
And Shad, we've already established that Shad is killing earlier, so this doesn't have to be his first kill here. And then this will also be the reason specifically why Sador is, like, doing a ground fight before whipping out the Stellar Converter is because, again, he's got this whole cult of personality, and he's convinced that we can be immortal if we just keep harvesting body parts from the people we kill. So he is here to harvest the Akir for bits and pieces before he incinerates them all.
So that's true of the original movie. I don't think we need that to be true of our version of the movie.
Okay.
Because, like, right now it's just like, hey, I did this all. I'm coming back home. I'm the hero. I've conquered the universe. And they're like, no, we reject you. And he's like, reject me? No one rejects the great incel. I mean the great Sador. Okay. I can handle a no very well and reasonably. I don't think we need to have him taking the different bits and parts off of different people, although we certainly can't have that.
I want to keep that because I enjoyed the small set piece of the Nestors trying to kill him that way.
Yes, I like that too. But we also can have that of, like, it's combat. He can take a stray and lose an arm, and he's like, there are tons of arms around. I'll take his. Mm-hmm. And they take the Nestor and they put their arm on.
Yeah.
We also could be like, it takes a long time to conquer a galaxy. I have lived a dozen lives over, and I've done that by harvesting the parts of all the people I've conquered. Mm-hmm. And they're like, so you're not even the person that we thought you might be? So it basically, we get to have a bunch of different, like, life philosophies of the Valkyrie of, like, live fast, die young. The Akir of no conflict, live an old life. As long as you don't get any fights, you could just get to have a lot of life. And it's like, what's the point of having a lot of life if you don't actually make it worth living? Mm-hmm. Gelt of living for money. Cayman, living to honor the memory of the people you come from. The Nestors, living to learn. We have Nenelia, what's living?
Exactly.
And so we get to have all of those different those things together of, like, Sador being the person who's like, I will live forever because I will both be remembered and respected as the greatest of everybody. And I will never show weakness. As soon as an ankle starts to hurt, I will replace it with something better. I am a accumulation of all of the best parts of those that I've conquered. So he has Ship of Theseus himself of what even is left of the original.
Yeah. But then I also think it would be an interesting, because they never dive deep into the fact that his henchmen are also all doing the same thing. And I think it would be interesting to have them be like, these were his soldiers way back in the day, and now they're like they worship him as this perfect ideal of eternal life. And they, like, get his hand-me-down parts, basically. It's like, you get a promotion.
Yeah, I love that.
here's my hand.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking the exact same thing. I think that's exactly what we should do, because in the movie as it exists, he's really antagonistic to his own troops, which, why would they listen to you if you're such an asshole? But I like the idea of it's just this cult of, like, power and self-improvement. And absolutely, and there's just, like, a hierarchy of, like, Sador found a better arm, and so now the arm that he had just trickles its way down the line. Mm-hmm. And when one of them gets killed, it can be I can't believe we lost them. He had so many good parts. Like, they don't care about the person, they care about the components.
Exactly. Also very fascist.
Yes, exactly. Good. All right. I think we figured out stuff. What else?
Well, we figured out ground fight. Sorry, I've got, like, this is, unfortunately, this does have a 3-act structure, and we've just finished Act 2.
We're a little bit in Act 3, but continue.
Because Nestor is getting abducted, but also Nanelia is going to get abducted. Because I did end up damseling her a little bit, but for a purpose.
Okay.
So it's going to be Shad and Cowboy and St. X-Men are going to take they're going to take Nell up, and they're going to try and get Nanelia and as many people as they can back. And when they go up, oh, look who's just also popped into orbit. It's Hephaestus Station, who is now, like, officially cavorting with Sador. So they're actually going to land on Hephaestus Station because it's easier to hide there, and then go through the station to get to the capital battlecruiser, whatever you want to call it. And then once they free Nanelia is going to go confront her father, and she's going to convince him that, like, no, like, there is a chance to fight. We can win this. Don't just kowtow to fascism. If you truly want me to live a long life and have grandchildren, I don't know if you'll be able to live to see them, but you need to help us stop Sador, and he will have a change of heart.
Which is going to be especially appropriate because when she goes to confront her father, Sador should have built him a body already out of spare parts.
That's also true.
And he has a change of heart because he got a new one.
Exactly.
So it's like he's not living as a head on a robot anymore. She gets there and she goes to confront her father, and her father's a person. Like, he's assembled. It's slapdash, but, like, has, like, look at what Sador has promised me, and he can do this for you too, my daughter. We can live forever. And she's like, what sort of life is this? What are you doing? What sort of life is this if we're destroying and betraying the people around us?
And you know what? That also helps play into the casting choice I made for Nanelia.
Great. Good. All right, cool. Love it.
And then, yeah, that will be, they rescue Nanelia. They rescue as many as the Akir as they can. They're going to load up the Akir into Cowboy's ship, and Cowboy's going to stay behind. He's going to seemingly die. St. Exon will also go down a blaze of glory, just because the character she is, I feel like it'd be, again, more interesting and intimate for her to have a death in melee combat rather than as in flight.
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible that, like, if they're having a melee combat, it's one of those things where she can, like the only way to get to deal damage to this ship is to, like, take this bomb and get it in there, and unfortunately all of our throwing arms are terrible. Mm-hmm. So she fights her way in and gets surrounded because, like, we're not letting her out of here, and she's like, great, click, boom.
Mm-hmm. And then they're gonna get off the ship. They're gonna have the same thing that happens with Nell, where Nell takes too many hits and she starts, because I really like this part too. It's very bittersweet how her, like, memory banks start to malfunction, and she mixes up Shad with Zed, because Zed was her old pilot, and it's very, like, bittersweet of how he's kind of saying goodbye to, I guess, his maternal figure / best friend, and she is very much in the throes of robot dementia, but she still gets to have the last laugh against Sador.
Yeah, I think that's true and appropriate, and I think that, like, if anything, they can make it a way in what's ever left of Cayman's ship or Cowboy's ship or someone else's ship, or Nanelia's dad, unfortunately, like, Hephaestus died, but they, like, make it out in the old Hephaestus ship, and it's bittersweet because it's, like, kind of the husk of all these different pieces come together. And in fact, what remains of them is kind of a slapdash patched work together bit of army, in the sense where Sador was himself a patched together human person, and this is now a patched together remains of an army. And that's, in the end, they did kind of end up a lot like Sador, except that they choose to be together as opposed to be people who were taken from others.
Yeah. And then
morals.
And then the conclusion, the denouement will be Nanelia, like, starting to plan a new life on Akir, not necessarily with Shad, but it's going to be with Shad.
Yeah.
They've erected a monument to the brave heroes that gave their lives to defend the planet, even if they knew it would end in their demise. And then they're going to get reports that, like, some of Sador's lieutenants have escaped, and they're trying to rally his forces for an act of vengeance. And then they're going to get reports from like Nestor, the rest of Nestor, because everyone else is going to die, but the rest of Nestor is going to be like calling in like, we have witnessed your brave fight against Sador and the Malmori, and should they attempt to enact vengeance, we shall help defend you. And then they'll get a call from the Valkyrie, like, we shall also help defend you. And then they'll get a call from Umatil, it's like, we have thrown off the yokes of our oppressors, and we shall also help defend the system.
I don't even think it needs to necessarily be all of that. We can just have the Nestors be like, we've witnessed the valiant effort, we've seen that Sador can be and is defeated, and because we are a hive mind, it won't take much for us to spread this information throughout the galaxy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that works. And then in the end, an escape pod crashes, and turns out Cowboy survived the whole time, actually.
Yeah, just because why not?
Why not?
And like literally, we could have like one of the Nestors go back to the Valkyrie planet and is like telling the tale of Saint X-Men, and then and it's this storytelling happening on the Warrior planet, and they're all cheering Saint X-Men and the incredible work that she did. But yeah, absolutely, that's a movie. Hell yeah,
it is.
Battle Beyond the Stars. Let's talk casting.
Yes.
Obviously, we have to start with Shad.
We do. The hero.
The hero. So, who did you have for Shad?
So, the thing about Shad is that trying to, like, lean back from a Mormon missionary into more of a Luke direction, a kid who, like, just really wants to be the guy, he really wants to be the hero, so he has to be able to convincingly play a bit of an action hero, but also be a bit of a Dweebus Dorcas.
Absolutely.
And because of the Nell situation, it'd also be really helpful if he's able to act against a voice, like a voice actor, just an intercom thing. So I picked the star of Blue Beetle, Xolo Maridueña.
So I love everything that you're saying. I also thought it was important that we get someone who can play kind of a Dorcas Malorcas, who has a lot of experience acting against a voice. So I casted Justice Smith from Detective Pikachu.
That is also a good pick. I'm leaning towards Xolo just because he is younger.
He is definitely younger. I'm perfectly happy to go with Xolo Maridueña.
Yeah.
That is fine with me.
Just because I feel like I'm going to be giving several of these to you, so...
Interesting, considering that you definitely cast more people than I did. So I think it's important now that we talk about the voice of Nell. So you went first for the last one. So I think it's important we talk about someone who does have voiceover experience, but also has the sass. The sass is important. Mm-hmm. And who is more sassy than Velma? I went with Linda Cardellini.
Oh, that is a good pick.
As the voice of the ship, the voice of Nell, Linda Cardellini just giving all the sarcasm, baby.
Yeah,
and also she's the voice of Wendy in Gravity Falls, which is perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is probably the correct pick. Because the person I picked, she does not have voice acting. Well, I think she has some voice acting experience, but like she's not as well known for it as compared to her role on Abbott Elementary. But I wanted someone who is very sassy, but can also pull out a little bit of a maternal vibe when needed. So I picked Janelle James.
Fair. I will push us towards Linda Cardellini.
No, I'm picking Linda Cardellini for you.
Great.
Because Janelle, also Nell, Janelle, and she would sound correct coming out of the ship's intercom, but Linda Cardellini blows her out of the water for this specific role, so.
In this particular case, yes. Who'd you have for Sador?
For Sador of the Malmori, I literally changed it 5 or 10 minutes ago, while we were discussing the plot, because I realized two actors I had would be better in some different roles.
That's funny.
Originally cast as Cayman of the Lambda Zone, I picked one of my favorite weird, scrawny British lizard people who loves playing a villain. The best part of Morbius. It's Matt Smith.
That's certainly a choice. And you certainly cast a lot younger than I did. I most definitely went older for
But when you think
Sador.
about Sador, like, he's probably going to look younger, because he's getting face transplants and all that stuff.
Absolutely. That makes total sense to me, and that's why we will probably go with Matt Smith. I went with someone who we know has played a big tough guy, but also I wanted a little bit of the Team Rocket of, like, the little bit of the incompetent bad guy. Like, this is a terrible fascist dictator for sure.
But he's an idiot.
He's an idiot a little bit. Like, he's doing it because he worships power. He needs that stupid incel can't take no for an answer energy.
Yeah.
And we also know he's someone who has played a role where he has a very prominent replacement body part. And also he's a right bastard in Bruges. I went with Brendan Gleeson.
Oh, that is interesting.
Because, like, he's he's the character that he has that he is in Bruges, and he's the big tough guy who's also a chef in Paddington 2. And he's also like Mad Eye Mooney in the franchise that shall not be named.
Right.
But like Brendan Gleeson is he's a very good actor. I am now remembering that his politics aren't perfect, but like that is the idea. I think Matt Smith's probably the correct choice for the kind of character we're going for. But that's who I was kind of building us to.
Yeah, I feel like Sador has a few like notable henchmen, but not notable enough for me to remember their names. So I feel like Brendan Gleeson would probably show up in his crew.
For all of Sador's crew and all of the like Hephaestus robots, I'm like, you get one person for each of those, and it's just that same person over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, you do that 3 times in this movie. It's the same mutant person everywhere. It's the same robot person everywhere. It's the same Nestor person everywhere. Like, I only cast one Nestor.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't bother with any of those. It's fine. It can be whoever it was. Whoever we find out is a big fan of Battle Beyond the Stars who wants to be, like, a secret casting, we can cover them in whatever prosthetics.
There you go.
That brings us to Nanalia. I wanted someone who's not an idiot. So like for very much this character, I wanted a little bit more of the edge of like, yeah, no, I'm the smartest person in the room. Okay, fine. I haven't lived it all, but like, I can fix stuff. Like that kind of vibe and energy, which is the kind of energy that she has in Bottoms and playing April O'Neil in TMNT Mutant Mayhem. And I haven't seen The Bear. But I feel like Ao Adebri is a good choice for Nanalia.
That is a very good... She was actually on my short list.
Hell yeah.
No, yeah, that is a really good choice. For my Nanalia, first I started, because I cast Xolo, and I was just looking at people who were around a similar age.
Sure.
I do know that Ao is older than Xolo, but also she's very believably plays younger, so I don't think that would be an issue if we go with her.
She played a high schooler literally last year?
Exactly, and she was great, and I was shocked to find out that she was 28, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
But I did actually find someone who's only a year younger than Xolo, who has been in some sci-fi... I mean, she hasn't been in a lot yet, but she was notably in a sci-fi work recently. And also, just casting a wider net, I thought it'd be interesting if it was, especially with her talk about all the gender stuff, it'd be interesting if it was not a cis person. So I cast Yasmin Finney, who was in Heartstopper, most notably, and also just last year was in one of the anniversary specials for Doctor Who.
I do not know this actress.
Yeah, she is fairly newer on the scene. But yeah, her biggest roles right now are Heartstopper and Doctor Who, and then some theater stuff, because every British actress has a long theater filmography.
It's true.
And I think she would very easily be able to play the smart girl. She did a lot of technobabble stuff on the Doctor Who episode, so she would acclimate to that very well. And I think she would have a good chemistry with Xolo, because they can both do both. Both of them can do the awkward young people falling in love kind of thing, but they can also do the, we're going to be the action heroes and we're going to fight to defend ourselves and our friends kind of thing.
Oh, for sure.
But I do think I am leaning towards Ao Adebiri.
Yeah, I think I might be too. Just as, I don't want to go, oh, I found, I want to dirty Nanalia up. I want to grunge her up because who's she trying to impress? Why? I'm not going to make myself look nice to live alone with my dad and a bunch of robots in a space station.
Yeah.
I want it to be just someone who's really comfortable, just overall, in their paint covered overalls and glasses. And I feel like that fits Ao's vibe a little bit more than it fits Yasmin's vibe.
For sure.
Cool. Then that brings us to Space Cowboy. Who did you have for Space Cowboy?
I almost had a Space Cowgirl, but I changed it. On I have many debates over who this was going to be. But I decided to go for an actor who... What was my reasoning even? I think I just liked him, and he was older, he was gritty, he would probably play well against Xolo. Oh no, the reason I went with him is because he plays... Space Cowboy, his purpose in Shad's arc is he's the cool uncle, essentially. And so I cast the coolest uncle. I cast Danny Trejo.
I mean, that's fair. He is, in fact, the coolest uncle.
He's Uncle Machete.
He is Uncle Machete. We all get the reference.
Yes.
He built the treehouse. He was Uncle Machete before he was Machete.
Technically, I think he was Machete, and then he was Uncle Machete, and then he was back to Machete. I mean, film order release.
Maybe. Whatever.
Let me call Robert Rodriguez. I'll ask him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's a very, very fun choice. I went with very much the like cowboy aesthetic. I wanted someone who, in very much a Danny Trejo way of like feels like he's seen everything, and isn't afraid to call out Shad on his dumbassery because he calls everyone a dumbass.
Yes.
And I feel like if we're gonna have one Smith, there's no reason why we can't have a second Smith. I went with not the star. You've seen him in that 70s show. You've seen him in RoboCop. It's Kurtwood Smith.
I don't think I know this guy. Is his last name
dad.
Woodsmith?
He's the dad. Yeah, he's the dad from that 70s show.
Oh, I do like that.
Yeah, so like the idea of just like, yeah, man, like why would I fight these battles? I've seen the odds. Like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go out of my way to like the only argument I have for Kurtwood Smith over Danny Trejo is Danny Trejo. Oh, we're looking to fight? I will fight someone with you. I'm Danny Trejo.
That
I will
is true.
Fight everyone.
Danny Trejo is the action hero.
As opposed to Kurtwood Smith, who's like, fuck you. I'm not fighting anybody. I'm getting out of here. He'll blow up your ship. Shit.
When Danny Trejo says he's not going to fight, you're spending the whole movie waiting for him to fight because he's Danny Trejo. But when Kurtwood Smith says he's not going to fight, you're spending the whole movie waiting to see if he will be forced to fight and if he'll make it out.
Correct. So that's why I would push us towards Kurtwood Smith.
I'm down for that.
Great. So then we have Gelt, and it is my turn to go first. The performance of Gelt continues to be my favorite, so I need a phenomenal actor. I need someone who can be a really like the tough guy with the turns out a heart of gold. Like someone who you like are immediately intimidated by, and then when you get to know them, you're like, okay, you're still super intimidating, but like I understand kind of like your underlying motivation. And he had an incredible performance in Us. He's like very memorable in Black Panther. I will always shout out his performance in 9 Days because he is incredible, and that is Winston Duke. He's the leader of the Jabari tribe in Black Panther.
No, I really like Winston Duke and everything I've seen him in. I'm just trying to picture him as Gelt. You know, that would be a really fun role to see him in because
it's
like
a very different vibe.
And for all the intimidating stuff that Gelt does, he's also very soft-spoken and he's almost like just kind of tired. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I know Winston Duke could do it, but I haven't seen it from him. So now I'm like, now I really want to see this.
I highly recommend the movie 9 Days.
Okay.
It is very, very good.
I think I would want to go with Winston Duke, but let me tell you my Gelt casting. Please. Because so here's the thing, is that like I said, Gelt was played by Robert Vaughn, who was in The Magnificent Seven. So I was like, why not cast someone from The Magnificent Seven remake?
Makes sense.
So from that cast, I did find someone who, like you said, can have a heart of gold, but also is very intimidating. And then, like I'd mentioned, also has just kind of, can play an air of tiredness. Like, they've seen it all, and they're very much, like, waiting for the end to come. And so I picked Ethan Hawke.
You know what? I also considered Ethan Hawke, but not for this role. But, like, I also was like, oh, Ethan Hawke. Like, I think I was considering him for Nestor.
Okay.
No, where was I considering Ethan Hawke? No, you're right. I was considering Ethan Hawke for Gelt. I was doing the same thing. So, like, I don't mind the idea of it being Ethan Hawke. I think we'll kind of end up with a similar kind of performance, and I kind of want to push us to a different kind of performance.
Yeah.
But I think Ethan Hawke is an excellent choice, and I'm not just saying that because I had the same thought.
Yeah. No, I don't think... Listen, none of us are having bad choices so far.
Oh, no. Everything has been top of the line.
Yeah.
That said, my Nestor is a little bit unexpected, and I could see this actor being picked over, and that's fine. But why don't you tell me about your Nestor, because I'm pretty sure you're going to get it.
Well, my Nestor is also a bit of a stretch. Because I started from a point of, okay, they're going to be wearing a lot of makeup all the time. It's going to be better quality makeup than the original. But they're also going to be going around being very pasty-faced, like kind of androgynous hive mind people. And so, first off, who's someone who is comfortable wearing that kind of makeup for a long time? And also, because whenever I come on this show, I'm trying to gender bend at least one person.
Absolutely.
So I went with, from the more recent Hellraiser film, Jamie Clayton.
Oh, that's not who I thought you were going to... Oh, I thought you were about to say Tilda Swinton.
No, that's like too obvious.
That's why I was like, okay, sure, no problem. Okay, yeah, great. I don't know this actor.
Yeah, she was in Hellraiser. She played Pinhead. I guess she's not credited as Pinhead, but as Pinhead. And she was also, her big role was in Sense8.
Hell yeah. Okay, go. Great, dope. I'm more than happy to go with her. I wanted someone who I think it would be really fun to see an entire planet full of them. I went with Masaoka.
Oh, that would be fun.
And so, like, I don't know that's necessarily the kind of Nestor that we have. I think the kind of Nestor as this person exists is Jamie Clayton. I think that's correct. But, like, I was like, all right, we're going to have an entire planet full of the same person arguing with himself. If that's not Masaoka, we've already seen, like, an entire arc being carried by this one person just kind of, like, going and popping around to different places. It's great. Masaoka's awesome at that.
It is, yeah. It's a very cute idea, but I think Jamie Clayton, because I'm also coming from the one where it is closer to the original, they're very cerebral. When they're having their arguments, they're more like legislative debates.
Absolutely. I think pulling in Hellraiser is the correct place to be thinking from. So I think that's amazing. So then let me tell you about my Saint X-Men of the Valkyries. I did the most obvious choice you can make.
Oh, word?
The problem is that she's too old, probably.
Not necessarily.
I went with Michelle Rodriguez.
Okay. I don't think age is the issue. I think the issue with Michelle Rodriguez is that she is too tough.
Yes, exactly. That's why I was like, this is the most obvious one. She was like the end of my list, and I was like, who's the most like, it's either her or Brienne of Tarth, and I want to go with Michelle Rodriguez because I think that's more interesting, especially after seeing her character in D&D, The Honor Among Thieves, and she's so good.
Oh yeah.
And like, I kind of that sort of character of like whatever subtle kind of betrayal of like, this is what this iteration of tough is on this world. I thought that would be what would make her interesting. I'm perfectly happy to go with anyone else, but that's where my head was at.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I actually, frankly, I am still torn between two actresses for Saint X-Men of the Valkyrie.
Okay.
One of them is younger. One of them I know has the action chops. One of them was a present for my friend.
All right.
So my options right now are either Olivia Munn, who she has done action stuff before. It was in X-Men Apocalypse, so we're not going to hold that against her.
Yeah, that's not her fault necessarily.
Exactly. She did, like, she actually fought people with a katana stunt work, so, like, she can pull it off.
Not a katana. Like, she had, like, blade arms, or was she holding a katana, or did she have blade arms?
She had blade arms at some point, but predominantly she had a katana.
Fair enough.
It was a psychic katana. It was the focused totality of her psychic powers.
Is her name Psylocke? I don't remember.
Yeah, she plays Psylocke.
And
it would also be fitting because Saint X-Men is kind of the platonic ideal of a Claremont dame, but we don't have time to get into that. The other option, and this also kind of goes into it because she can kind of do the bimbo energy of Saint X-Men, which is, I say bimbo affectionately. Listen, I want Saint X-Men to hone as close as she can from the original because I love her. She's camp.
Okay.
There's a certain fantasia going on about her, and so I picked Sydney Sweeney.
Okay. She has technically been in an action movie.
No, I mean, this is not because of Madam Web.
Look, I've pulled people in from Madam Web. Like,
I'm not saying, Sydney Sweeney has action chops from Madam Web. She explicitly has said how she did not get to use any of her martial arts training in Madam Web.
I know, like, they're all upset with it. And they have every right to be.
Also, I don't want to assume, but I feel like you're attracted to women at some points.
That is correct.
So just got a picture of Sydney Sweeney in that just bondage harness that Saint X-Men was wearing for the final fight.
That's true, but like, yes, Sydney Sweeney is obviously gorgeous. It's a well-known scientific fact. I would push us between the two more towards Olivia Munn because I don't want it to be like a distraction of just like, well, now we haven't heard any word that Sydney Sweeney has said because look at what she's wearing.
I'm sorry, Sydney, you can't take this role. You're too sexy.
Like, look, there's sexy and there's distractingly sexy.
Fair enough.
And I think Olivia Munn is gorgeous. Like, Olivia Munn is absolutely phenomenally gorgeous. But we also can put her in a ridiculous outfit, and I will still hear the words she's saying.
That's true, because she's a very, very good actress. She was the best part of the newsroom.
That is exactly what I was about to say. Like, I'm happy to go with Olivia Munn to put her in an action movie which might actually be good for once.
Yeah.
That gets to the end of the cast that I have, but I know that you have a bunch of casts.
Yeah, well, I'm curious as to why you didn't cast Kamen of the Lambda Zone, because he's one of the 7.
He is. I didn't cast him because he's entirely in prosthetics.
Yes, but it's...
So I didn't think about it.
Right. See, the thing is, he's in prosthetics the whole time, but it's not like... I feel like that still requires an actor who can give good performances, as opposed to like... Okay, I'm not going to say that like a puppet or an animatronic doesn't require a good performance, but that's something where like you think about it more because you want someone who has the physicality, and also because he's a lizard man. He's just a lizard man. Those aren't going to be like heavy prosthetics, so it's still something that you can act through.
I forgot he was in the movie.
You know, that's also fair, because he really doesn't do anything except try to eat Nanelia and then go Lazuli.
Correct. But who did you have for Cayman?
So, as I mentioned before, my Cayman was Matt Smith, earlier in this recording, and I switched him at the last minute because I felt it would fit better. And I do still think it would fit better, because also another thing with Cayman, he got really big eyes. He got eyes that kind of pop out of a skull almost. And so I picked a guy who he has acted with prosthetics. He got some big eyes. He is also kind of a lizard man. I've got Bill Skarsgård.
Okay. Yep. Great.
And he also likes playing weirdos.
He really does. I think I put the umlauts in the correct place. I definitely didn't. They're on the other A. Excellent. Good. Love it. Okay, that's our Cayman. You also had Dr. Hephaestus, Zed the Corsair, Maul, and Lux.
So it does kind of sound like we've removed the importance of Zed the Corsair from here, which I'm fine with. We did. Originally, I was going to cast Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Okay.
He was Gimli in Lord of the Rings. He's down for literally any role. But yeah, I honestly feel like we can remove Zed the Corsair and lose nothing from this film.
We can have we can have the person who contacts Shad on his way back and says, we're under attack. Bring back some people to fight, because otherwise the planet's about to be taken over. We need someone to do that.
Well, that role, we can hand that role to Shad's sister, Maul. Actually make her important in the film instead of just... I mean, maybe she will still die for the purposes of this. But give her a bigger role and actually have Shad acknowledge that his sister died.
Great. Who's playing Maul?
Maul is going to be
Keep in mind that my sister is also named Maul.
But yeah, but I'm pretty sure...
Maul Lee.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure Maul's full name is Maul.
Yeah, but, whatever. Anyway.
She will be played by Jenna Ortega.
Great.
And then... Dr. Hephaestus, because I did give him a bigger role, he's a mad scientist kind of guy. He's kind of a little out there zany, so I wanted some guy who plays, not zany necessarily, but like a little absent-minded. And so I thought that a few years ago in Jingle Jangle, Forrest Whitaker gave a good performance of a very absent-minded kind of tinkerer, toy maker guy. And I feel like that very much would fit the vibe.
Excellent. Love it.
And it also helps that I cast a black woman as Nelia to begin with, so there's no...
I noticed that, and I was not about to call it out.
Very convenient.
Absolutely. So then, that brings us to Lux.
Lux is the woman that Cowboy has his, little romance with on the planet side. And sure. I was looking at actresses around the same age as Danny Trejo. Fortunately, also around the same age as Kurtwood Smith, so I've just got Debbie Allen.
Great. Love it. That is our cast. We now have writer and director. I have separate writer-director. Do you have a hyphenate or separate?
I also have separates.
Okay. So then let me tell you about my writer. These are a little bit smaller names. I mean, this writer has definitely written movies, but she has also done comedies and stuff, because we need this to have a little bit more joy before we get to kind of the hopelessness of she's written a very interesting, compelling villain who is interesting, compelling, and 100% irredeemably the villain. Mm-hmm. And she's done that a couple of times. She did that in The Lost City. She did that in Cruella. But she's also written on New Girl. Her name is Dana Fox.
Okay.
And she's also done big and camp. I think The Lost City and Cruella are actually good comparisons for this, because they are these big budget designed movies of you have to create a world. And that is what we're doing here with this movie. And so that's why I thought that she'd be a good writer. Who did you have?
That is a good pick, and I'm probably leaning towards her because, she do hit that campy fun vibe. I really struggled with writers. That's because I am just a little guy, and I'm not in Los Angeles. I don't know writers off the cuff the way I do directors.
I have to spend so much time researching these people.
But also, the other problem is that I don't consume nearly enough media as. So
I had to make a podcast to make myself watch more things.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, continue.
No, it's fine. But I was like, you know what? This is a Star Wars knockoff. Why not just go back to the source? Went through some Star Wars writers, and you know what? This is a movie about an uprising against a fascist force, so why not just get one of the writers from Rogue One, and the showrunner for Andor, and I picked Tony Gilroy.
That's fair. That's a decent thing. That's a decent get. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really do Hope all that well.
Well, he does, okay. But it's like more of the kind of fling a light into the future style of Hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Good reference. Okay, cool. Who do you have as your director?
My director, again, I know directors a little bit better than I do writers, but not as well. But I was like, I want someone who... I want them to know how to direct space action, because that's going to be a thing. They need to at least be able to handle the action. Based on just the stuff that I do know, I knew I would pick someone who also can do comedy and heart and all that. They can run the gamut, but I wanted to be sure that they had done action stuff before. And the thing about the Marvels is that any of its problems I am blaming on the Disney executives.
I liked the Marvels.
I also liked the Marvels. The action was good, and the acting was great, and the emotional beats were great, and the ending was tacked on. And we're going to ignore the fact that no one ever called out the fact that Captain Marvel represents the military-industrial complex, because Nia DaCosta is not allowed to do that, but she is still a very good director.
That's true. That is an excellent choice for director. My director I pulled from television because he's worked in a little bit of a bunch of different things that when you accumulate all of those things together is kind of the vibe that we're going for with this movie. This is a director who has worked on Tomorrow People. He worked on Arrow. He worked on Doom Patrol. And he worked on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. He's an actor named Dermot Downs, and I just thought he'd be an interesting pull. That said, what I think we should do is Dana Fox to write, Nia DaCosta to direct.
I am totally down for that.
Excellent. All right, so we have a movie.
Woo!
That is Battle Beyond the Stars, the new version. Shad will be played by Xolo Maridueña. The voice of Nell will be Linda Cardellini. Sador of the
Malmori
of the Malmori will be Matt Smith. Nanelia will be Ayo Adibri. Space Cowboy will be Kurtwood Smith. Gelt will be Winston Duke. Nestor will be Jamie Clayton. Saint X-Men of the Valkyrie will be Olivia Munn. The Kelvins will be whichever kids are popular at the time.
Yeah.
Cayman will be Bill Skarsgård. We don't have a Zed, so take that, Jonathan Rhys-Davies. Dr. Hephaestus will be Forrest Whitaker. Maul will be Jenna Ortega. And Lux will be Debbie Allen. All of this will be written by Dana Fox and directed by Nia DaCosta. That's Battle Beyond the Stars. Tanner, you gonna go see this movie?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. On Tubi, I assume.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll get a theatrical release, but then I'm sure it'll show up on Tubi, like, afterwards for a month, and it'll go away, and then it'll come back a few months later.
Yeah, exactly. As nature intended.
Precisely.
Tanner, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you for having me watch this very silly movie.
Thank you for having me back, and also putting up with me changing movies about 4 times.
Yeah, that's fine. I got to watch Battle Beyond the Stars. It was worth it. Tanner, where can people find you online, and or what are those projects? What are all those podcasts again that you're working on?
All my stuff that I am involved with or have been promoting, it can be found through the Bluesky, the Bluesky.social. So you can find my personal account on Sparky Upstart. You can find Not If I Reboot You First at NIIRYF Pod, which are the letters for Not If I Reboot You First. I'm pretty sure this episode of Ideal Remake is coming out shortly before the episode of Not If I Reboot You First, where we remake Wad and Web.
Yep.
And Loser Like Me can be found at loserlikeme.biscuit.social, and Binary Break can be found at binarybreak.biscuit.social. So throw support behind my stuff and my friend's stuff, because it's rad.
Yeah. If you're interested in finding me, I am also on Bluesky at Sam Gasch, SAMGASCH, or you can find me on Instagram where I am at Ideal Remake, because why not? But yeah, that's a show. You can also, honestly, here's the thing. If you've seen Battle Beyond the Stars and you want to talk about it, I will talk about this movie with you. All you got to do is find me on the Dueling Genre Discord, which has a link in the doobly-doo. You can go click on it. We can have this conversation. We can talk about this ridiculous movie from 1980 and have an amazing time. But that is the end of this episode. Tanner, I will end this episode the same way I end every episode. What is your favorite quote from the movie Battle Beyond the Stars?
I could do wonders for that boy. I would recharge his capacitors, stimulate his solenoids, tingle, dingle, dangle, prangle his transistors. You know, sex.
It's such a good line. It's an incredible line. Like, she is an incredible character, and it is very, very silly.
Yeah.
All right, we did it.
We did it.